A very good morning to all the students of class 11th political science. Students, we were doing the first chapter and we had finished 7 parts of this particular chapter, and in the last 2 or 3 videos we were mostly discussing about the fundamental rights of the Indian citizens as given in the constitution. So in the part 7th we had discussed culture and education rights and right to constitutional remedies. So we had discussed in detail. Also we had read some important points from the NCERT book. So with that we had finished our topic, that is fundamental rights of Indian citizens. So now moving forward, the next important topic just next to the rights is the fundamental duties of the citizens. Till now we had done fundamental rights. Now it's time for the fundamental duties. The meaning of fundamental I had already told you previously in this particular chapter in the beginning. Funda means very basic, very important for individual as well as the whole group or community. Very basic rights we had done, which are very important for the overall development of a particular person. And in the same way there are some duties of all the citizens, but there is a difference between the rights which are given by the constitution and there is some duties also which have been appointed by the constitution, but there is a difference between these two, and we are going to understand that in this particular video. So starting with, first of all I would like to take an example for you. Like suppose you are studying in the school, so these are your we can see the duties or of your parents to settle you down, to nurture you properly so that you can be a good human being in future when you grow up. So there are some, so we can also say those are some of the fundamental duties your parents are performing. You are getting all the fundamental rights. They are doing everything for you in terms of economic or in terms of all the facilities you are needing, your social political life. Everything is dependent on your parents and they are doing what they are supposed to do. They are performing all their duties. Along with that you are getting all the rights also. So now what's your responsibility when you grow up as a student also? If they are doing everything for you so that you can live a good comfortable life, you can have a good lifestyle, so now it's your duty to do something for them. And what you can do, you can study well, you can get good marks, good results, you can do something good or progressive in your future, which makes your parents very proud. So when we get some rights, I can say when we are getting some rights, it is also our duty to perform some duties to support the one who has given us rights to have a good lifestyle. So as a citizen of India, if you are getting on any person, any citizen of India who has been granted these 6 important fundamental rights to live a good lifestyle and can nurture in a positive manner, can have a good personality. So in response to that, there are some duties also which a citizen must perform as a citizen of India. If we are getting some rights, it is also our duty to do something for our nation. But what's the difference? I shall be telling you. As those fundamental rights we can say are justable. If anyone violates any of the fundamental rights, I can go and approach the High Court or the Supreme Court if there is any attack on my fundamental rights. But these duties, fundamental duties, these are not punishable, they are not justiciable, we can say. It means if there are 10 duties of a citizen given in these are the 10 fundamental duties of a citizen given in the Indian constitution, but if I do not perform some of the duties given in this constitution, they are non-justiciable. I cannot be punished for that. Okay, so we'll try and understand that. So starting with today's topic, I had already explained you what we are going to study today. This is your chapter number 1 and this is part number 8 we are taking today. And the topic is fundamental duties of citizens. So let's start with some of the important points I have noted down. In 1976, you have to remember the date. These fundamental duties were included in 1976 under the 42nd amendment. The meaning of amendment, we shall be doing this topic also. These are the changes which are brought to the constitution through a basic or we can say a fixed procedure we have to follow for the changes in the constitution according to the need of the time and situations. So this follows a particular procedure and this is called amendment. So there was a 42nd amendment in 1976 to the constitution in which the constitution was passed sorry, it's written in 1976 the 42nd amendment to the constitution was passed. And what happened in this 42nd amendment? Among the other things, there were many changes, or the few changes made in the under this amendment of 42nd amendment in 1976. But along with this, there were something new, that is a list of fundamental duties of citizen. This was inserted or included in the constitution, that is the list of the fundamental duties of a citizen. That is, there were certain duties given to the citizens which should be done as a citizen of a country. So this was included in 1976 under 42nd amendment. So this is the basic introduction of this particular right. You must know this particular date, and this was the amendment. And under this amendment, along with the other things, this was one of the important changes or the involvement in the constitution, that is a list of fundamental duties. And these fundamental duties had there were 10 in total, number of 10 duties. In all, 10 duties were enumerated. Okay, total number of 10 duties were included. However, the constitution does not say anything. This is the one and the most important thing, and the difference between human right, fundamental duties and fundamental rights. In fundamental rights, we say they are enforceable, or they, if we are we can say if they are violated by someone, we can go to High Court or Supreme Court. But here it's written, however, the constitution does not say anything about the enforcing these duties. No one can force you to perform these duties. As a human being, it is our moral duty to follow the rights which are written down in the list of fundamental duties of the citizen, but they are not enforceable. No law, no government, no military, no police can force you to perform these duties. As a citizen, as a good human being, it's our moral duty to follow this list of fundamental duties which are given in the constitution. So let's do one by one. What were those important fundamental duties of citizens which were included in the fundamental or in the constitution through the 42nd amendment in 1976? So the very first, you can see here, it's written, okay, to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals, institutions, national flag and national anthem. Abide means to follow and accept. We as a citizen have to accept whatever is what are all are the provisions and acts which are included in the constitution. As a citizen, we have to abide by the constitution. We have to respect its ideals. Okay, whatever are the ideals, institutions like judiciary, executive, legislature, our national flag, our national anthem. These are the things which are of importance of nationalism. So we have to respect them and we have to accept them, as we are also the citizen of this country. So this is our duty. No one can force you. It's written here, enforcing. No one can enforce these duties on you. No one can force you to sing the national anthem or respect the national flag. But it's our moral duty as a citizen of this country, as we are having so many important fundamental rights through which we are having so much of advantage to live a healthy lifestyle in a democratic country like India. So in response to that, we must have some duties and we must perform these duties, although they are not enforceable. To cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. So there are very noble ideals. Okay, as you must read the preamble of the constitution, there are many important points written as the, we can say, important applications of our constitution. And during the national struggle or the freedom struggle, when we were fighting for our national freedom, so at that time there were many ideals and we have to respect them as they were followed by all the national fighters. Third is to uphold and protect sovereignty. Sovereignty, whenever a country or a state is free from the powers or the control from the outside. Like previously we were the colony under the British. British had control over us, as India was a colony of British. So we were not sovereign. But after independence, we were called a sovereign country. So we were having sovereignty. So we have to protect this sovereignty because of a long freedom struggle and sacrifice of so many freedom strugglers and so many people, women, children, we have got this freedom. So it is our duty now as the future generation to uphold and protect, to maintain this sovereignty, to do the activities which promote the sovereignty and makes development in every sphere of our sectors in our country. So we have to promote sovereignty. We have to maintain the unity between the people, as there is so much of diversity, we can say, in terms of caste, religion, language, place of birth, profession, languages. So we have to maintain this unity, although all the provisions are made in the constitution to maintain this unity. But as a citizens, you also have certain duties where we can maintain the unity and integrity of India. So we have to respect the unity and integrity of India. Here, the fourth one is to defend the country and render national services whenever required. We have to defend the country. It is not necessary that you have to be in the military or you have to be in the defense somewhere or police, then only you can serve your nation. There are various things in the society, in some or the other way we are required, our services are required for the national services. At that particular moment we have to be always ready to perform our duties towards our nation. So it's written to defend the country and render national whenever required. Okay. Next is to promote harmony. Harmony, we can also say peace, calm and calm conditions within a particular state. So we have to promote peace and harmony and spirit of common brotherhood. We also have to, as I was talking about the unity, I am also talking about here common brotherhood, means as there is so much of diversity, so we have to be integrated together as brothers. Although we have different religion, caste, languages, but there are different provisions which bring us together, and we have to maintain common brotherhood and maintain peace and harmony in our country. So we have to maintain common brotherhood amongst all the people of the country and renounce those practices, and we have to eradicate those I can say evil practices which are being followed in our society, and those evil practices are very harmful for the human existence, so they should be eradicated, especially some social evil activities towards women and children. So such activities which have a neglecting impact on a society, so we should try and eradicate those activities from our society, and this is the duty of every citizen. It is not only the government or the laws which are enforceable or punishable for the citizen, then only we will do something. As a citizen, we have certain duties. So as we are enjoying the rights, it is also our duty to perform something for our nation. Now, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Heritage meaning, you must be knowing, all the old monuments, we can say, which have been existing from the very ancient period, and they are very important for our rich culture, which shows the culture, traditions and values of our country. So it is very important to protect those heritage in our country, as they are very important for our culture in terms from the point of view of our culture, as the future generations also need them, and they also need to understand the ancient the past period of our country, what was the history of our country. So it becomes very important for us to protect this heritage. So it is a duty of every citizen to protect the heritage and the culture of a particular country. I'm not talking only about India, but around the world. Okay, but these duties I am talking about the Indian Constitution. Now the next is to protect and improve the natural environment. This is very important. As citizens, we must protect, improve the natural environment, including forest, as we should not cut trees, we should not pollute water, lakes, rivers, whatever. We should protect the wildlife, animals as well as plants, and have compassion, and we should have a love and affection towards the living creatures, maybe animals or humans. We should give them love and affection. So as you know, in the current scenario, there is so much of environmental degradation because of the developmental activities, industrialization and fast growing economies in the current period. Around the world, we have seen in contemporary world, there is a lot of destruction of the environment, and because of which there are a lot of new environmental issues coming up, like global warming. To tackle with that, there are so many international organizations working upon it, because that's not the issue which a single country can handle it. It has no boundaries, so it's the responsible. It's a global problem. So it is very important for a citizen to protect its environment. It's all the forest, water, etc. Okay. So as a citizen, we can do a lot to protect our environment. We should not think that people are doing this, people are doing that. On our basis, at our level, we should do our best what we can do. We should not point out others that around my neighbors or in my city or in my community people are doing this. Why should I alone be protective about the environment or talking about the cultural heritage? It's our responsibility. We should follow, we should perform our duties. That's it. To safeguard public property, one and the same thing. Public properties, you have parks, you have hospitals, you have community centers. These are some of the public properties which are included by the government for the giving basic facilities to all the people of a place. So we should protect that. We should not destroy the public property. To develop scientific temper, so now they are talking about in the current scenario around the world, this should be our temper, scientific. We have to grow, we have to develop, we have to invent. Okay, so instead of focusing our mind in the useless activities, we should focus on this particular temper, scientific temper, and spirits in inquiry and reforms. We have to make the reforms and bring our society to a point where we can achieve economic growth as well as political, social and cultural growth around, as the developing countries are growing, but we have to be a developed country. And the last one is to strive towards. Now these two are, like, we can say the conclusion, because if we perform our duties properly, then we will be able to, like, to strive towards excellence. We will be able to move towards excellence in all spheres of individual, in terms of individual also and collective also. We have to move towards greater heights. We have to achieve a lot of heights in terms of economic, political, cultural or social issues, activities, to reach the nation to the higher level, so that our nation can, if we will reach higher levels, definitely our nation will also reach the higher levels of endeavors and achievements. We'll achieve whatever we want, we will achieve all the goals. If individuals thinks like this, our nation will achieve all the goals which we have thought of. So these are some of the important duties of all the citizens of India, although they are not enforceable, but as we are enjoying all the rights, fundamental rights, which are, we can say, if they are violated, we can challenge any person who are hurting or who are attacking our rights. So in place of that, it's our duty to perform certain basic duties towards our nation for this positive growth. So after fundamental rights of the Indian citizens, which is given in the constitution, now the next important topic of your syllabus is directive principles of the state policy. Now through this paragraph we shall try and understand the meaning of directive principles, as through the word you can understand directive principles. These are the directions or the applications which are given to the state. Okay, or we can say these are the instructions given to the state government or the central government, which they have to perform, through which there can be a welfare sphere having economic, political and social developments in all spheres, where there is progress in every areas. So trying and understanding it, the makers of our constitution knew that independent India was going to face many challenges. As we have already discussed, the makers of the Indian constitution knew very well we are going to have many problems and coming up many challenges as we move forward, because of the diversity. There was a lot of diversity in terms of we have told many times, caste, religion, language, area, place of birth, geographical locations, or we can also say okay, for most among these was a challenge to bring about equality, and these challenges were just to bring equality. There was a situation in the country because of the so much of diversity. This was the biggest challenge to make a balance between all the communities and provide them equality, well-being of all citizens. They also thought that certain policy directions were required to handling these problems. So they knew, constitutional framers, they very well knew there has to be some directions, there have to be make some policies to handle these problems of inequality and imbalance between the different communities and people of the society. So at the same time, the constitution did not want future government to be bounded by certain policy decisions, but the constitution also thought they don't have to make such policies which would become a challenge in future for the upcoming government. So the policies should be so general, so flexible that it does not create a challenge for the future governments. Therefore, That is why, therefore, some guidelines were incorporated in the constitution, but they were not made legally enforceable. Okay, so some fundamental rights were given, but to control people and to bring equality and balance between the different citizens of the country, they had made some guidelines. Okay, these are the guidelines which incorporated in the constitution. Okay, but they were not made legally enforceable. They were not legally enforceable. Like we studied the duties of the citizen. Duties of a particular citizen, of fundamental duties. But if we talk about fundamental rights and fundamental duties, those are involved only with particular individuals. Okay, they are related to the individual, the fundamental rights of the individual and the duties which individual are to perform, although they are not enforceable still. But here, these directive principles of state policies, they are related to the states or the government. So they have written, therefore some guidelines were incorporated in the constitution but they were not made legally enforceable. This means legally enforceable means that if a government did not implement a particular guideline, we cannot go to the court asking the court to instruct the government to implement the policy. Suppose the government has not followed a particular guideline which has been written in the constitution for the directive principles of the state policy. In that case, we cannot go to the court, high court or supreme court, that government has not implemented a particular policy. Although in the case of fundamental rights, if someone violates your right to equality, right to freedom of religion, etc., in that case, yes, you are authorized to go to the court and challenge the person who is violating your rights. But as directive principles of the state policy, they are not enforceable, so no one can challenge that government is not following certain instructions and guidelines of the constitution. Thus these guidelines are non-justiciable. So we can say the guidelines given by the constitution under directive principles of state policy, they are non-justiciable. That is part of the constitution that cannot be enforced by the judiciary. So the judiciary, courts cannot enforce the guidelines given under directive principles. Those who framed our constitution thought that moral force behind these guidelines would ensure that the government would take them seriously. But the framers of the constitution thought that it's the moral force or the moral values of all the government will force them to follow all the guidelines given under directive principles of state policy. So they left the government that they themselves will be able to perform these duties. They don't need anyone to enforce certain or implement certain rules and regulation, or judiciary to enforce a particular government to do something. It would be a moral duty of the government to perform such or follow such guidelines. Besides, they accepted that the people would also hold the government responsible for implementing these directives. So a separate list of policy guidelines is included in the constitution. A list of these guidelines called directive principles of state policy. So we can say that what are directive principles of state policy? These are the guidelines which are included in the constitution, and this list of guidelines is called directive principles of state policy. These are the guidelines which are followed by the state or the central government. These are the functions and the duties which they have to perform, but they are not justiciable or enforceable. No one can force them, okay, or implement them. So the next important question which arises, if you have understood the meaning of directive principles of state policy, what do the directive principles contain? What is the list that and what is the functions which are written down in that particular list and which are to be performed by state or the central government to make a welfare state? The chapter on directive principle lists mainly three things. So this list tell us about the main three things, and these three things are the goals and objectives that we can as a society should adopt. So what should be the goals and objective as we as society? So what should be the aims or objectives of a society to make a welfare state? These and goals and objectives are to be undertaken with the help of government. Certain rights that individuals should enjoy apart from. So apart from six fundamental important rights, there are various other rights also and functions of the individual in the society, and it is a duty of the government, we can say, to provide these rights to the individual so that they can enjoy their all the rights apart from fundamental rights. And the third thing is certain policies that the government should adopt. There are certain important policies which government should adopt to make a welfare state. Okay, you may get some idea of the vision of makers of constitution by looking at some of the directive principles. So you if you go through all the directive principles which are of the state policy which are given in the constitution, we would be able to understand what was the vision of the makers of the constitution, how far sighted they were, and how they saw the changes would be coming in the future. Accordingly, they have mentioned all the directive principles of the state policy. So the government from time to time try to give effect to some directive principles of state policy. So from time to time government has been working and functioning on some of the important directive principles of the state policy which are very important for a society. They pass several with the need of the time or with the change of the situation. They implement different policies which are called directive principles of state policies. So like the zamindari abolition, there was a zamindari system under which all the property was run under the zamindari, and he had many farmers working for him as the laborers or the slaves also. So this system, zamindari abolition bill, they abolished this system, they nationalized many banks as they saw the changes in the development around the world and the importance of the nationalized banks. So this was done. Enacted numerous factory laws. There were many new laws made for the factories especially, so that there was no discrimination for the people working in the factory or the laborers working in the factory. Various laws were made. Fixed minimum wages. So this was to be the problem for many people. Many used to get very low wages. So there was one standard maintained for the maximum or the minimum wages to be given by the owners of the factory to the laborers. Small cottage and small industries were promoted and financially helped so that they could grow and produce more. So to improve the production of these small cottage and small industries. This is important. Provision for reservation of the upliftment of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. So as we also know today, also in the colleges, schools, and job opportunities, we see a lot of reservations, and those reservations are for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, even women's also. So these were some of the deprived societies of India which were lagging behind, and they needed some support. So this support was given through this process or provision of reservation by the government. So with the change in time, the government recognizes its duties towards make a healthy society. So these are the directive principles through which governments with change in time works over it. It has a positive impact on it. So such efforts of the government has given effect to directive principles. So this has become effective if we talk about the government, as it has effect on this effect includes right to education, formation of Panchayati Raj as we have seen. Okay, there are 3 levels you will study, and institution in the local government will study about the Panchayati Raj, in which you will see the local government is having 3 tiers, that is 3 levels. Okay, all over the country, partial rights to work under employment guaranteed program and midday meal, as you see, scheme in the government school, in which the lunch is given to the students, books given, dresses given to promote education and bring the literacy rate higher. So these are some of the activities which are being performed under directive principles of state policy by the government. So these and the list under directive principles is the list or the functions which are to be performed by the state, but it's up to the state when and how they perform it. No one can enforce them, or no one can be or these cannot be justiciable. No one can challenge the government or complain the court, Supreme Court, High Court, regarding the implementation of the basic directive principles which are there in the list. With this, we come to the end of this particular topic of directive principles of the state policy, and today we have also done some fundamental duties of the Indian citizens. So these 2 topics we have covered today, and I shall be assigning you certain question from these 2 topics. You have to do it, because I have seen only 2 or 3 students are doing the written work properly. Okay, thank you.